Good morning, happy Tuesday, and welcome to episode 2 of Adam Loves the Man. Thank you so much for joining us, and I have to say, already I feel so much better as a statist than as a libertarian. It's just, one, I'm not afraid of the censors anymore. I mean, when you are on the right side of history and pro-authority and pro-government, the people who control the flow of information love you. They want you to be able to keep spreading your message. And I mean, already I'm feeling so much love and support from the world in a way that we never experienced. And it makes sense because, as a libertarian, I was sending out, all sorts of negativity and rebellious angst. And now it's just, a calm, peaceful love for authority that I have that dictates how we look at the world, and we are able to see it in such a better way now that we understand it properly. And the numbers don't lie. So we're going to start today with some producers' notes. I guess we should, while CJ is with us here, our intrepid executive producer from North Dakota. We should also point out that if you go to AdamLovesTheMan.com, right there, AdamLovesTheMan.com, you can check out our store and support us with Adam Loves the Man merchandise. You can go to, see our old Patreon, how we used to do things, and let people in the Producers Club. We're going to keep that going. So I want to give people a contest today because there was, CJ, there was really only one thing that I found disappointing yesterday, is that I didn't get a lot of help from our audience in trying to make the decision between Trump or Biden. I still haven't voted yet. I mean, I know I'm not going to throw my vote away on anybody but a Republican or a Democrat, but I hope we can get more compensated. But CJ, our producer, was very excited to see just how popular statism is. I mean, it's awesome. It really is. The comfort of being back in the herd feels good, doesn't it, CJ?
Yeah, good morning, Adam, and happy days out there in Gardenia. It is interesting to look at the world from a statist perspective, to accept the reality of your slavery, to embrace it, to be above reproach when it comes to preaching the narrative of perpetual war, taxation. These are all things that once you realize that once you stop questioning the government, you can start actually living your life. It's a newfound revelation. I think you're onto something.
Well, this slavery idea. I mean, some people think it's over the top. Like, and I want to. I know we have time to explain all of our cool new graphics that CJ did for us, but the slavery idea. We're not talking about a violent or even racist kind of slavery here. We're talking about a truly glorious, beautiful slavery. And people might think like that the use of this word here is a joke, or that it's somehow tongue-in-cheek. I think the most negative thing you could say about it is that it's intellectually obtuse and deserves explanation. So we can get into this more in later shows, maybe for an extended opening monologue on the virtue of modern statist slavery. But I mean, it just when we are tied and bound to each other and bound to the authorities the way that we can be through statism, we come back to a unified herd. And man, CJ, tell us about the numbers.
So obviously the old show Adam versus the Man was seen. I think it was really taken for granted, honestly, that we had a show that we were doing 2 hours a day plus 5 days a week every day. and the numbers weren't that active, engaged audience when it comes to preaching the message of love and unity. But when we switched to Adam Loves the Man and slavery, our views skyrocketed on YouTube, Facebook. The comment section for your video yesterday, I think, is a great example of just how many people took this message and it basically gave every
took it to heart. It took it to heart. It was really amazing to see how well received this was.
Well, actually, I think there's a lot of people that are still confused. They didn't experience the censorship the way you did, so they still don't understand why you're taking this approach. One of the things that, and again, I hope that we can get into this with Jim, is just the overall reaction, the difference between, Adam versus the man, Adam loves the man. This is a transformation that needed to happen. It needed to fundamentally happen for this show in order to save and archive your civil disobedience as an example to others of the road you can go down if you choose this crazy libertarian path. I mean, I too believe that slavery is just the answer. It's accepted. To say it's over the top, Adam. No, I don't think slavery's been done right before. I think we need to look at it fundamentally different as a new approach to a solution to a problem that does really exist.
Yeah, that's the important historical perspective. Thank you for bringing that in and reminding us of that, CJ. It's one of those things, like, once it's revealed, you go, oh, it's self-evident. Oh, this is obvious.
Yes.
And I mean, it makes sense that, as a libertarian, reflecting, the worst of human nature. I mean, again, it's really important that we protect the archive of my work, if you want to call that deranged behavior work, at youtube.com/Adam Kokesh, as a testament to how to be a bad American, how to be a bad person. And I mean,
you're setting a new level for what it means to be an American. You're taking the proverbial torch of libertarianism, you're extinguishing that flame, and you're saying that it's not viable when dealing with the corporate world, with the government we currently have. It's just not a viable solution. And so the answer to this solution is acceptance and obedience to the omnipotent state. And I think that it's a beautiful transformation because it's going to really show people just how important freedom, what was, and how much challenging it is not really a benefit to anybody. In fact,
right. And it's going to make me popular again. I mean, I'm really looking forward to that. Instead of hanging out with this small crowd of losers where we're always trying to drag people into the libertarian movement, now it's like, I'm back at the cool kids table,
Yeah, and it's going to give you a chance to interview people and get their perspective on why you should vote for Trump or Biden. You get to, now you're a free agent endorser, so, if that endorsement matters to people, who you endorse. I see that in the comments where, we've already got the, you should vote Trump, no, you should vote Biden.
Hold on, before I forget, CJ, let me complete this thought. We'll be giving away membership to the Producers Club today for the most compelling argument to vote for Trump or Biden. So it's still a little subjective, make me laugh. It might be the most entertaining thing in the comments today, and that's how you win. But best comments, and there, if y'all don't step up like yesterday, we might have 0 winners, and we could have multiple winners if we can't decide. We've done that before too. We have unlimited memberships we can give away in the Producers Club.
Yeah, and being in the Producers Club, just to let you guys know, it is a 24-hour access to Adam, myself, Jim, and the other producers. We were in there chatting up till midnight last night, and I think there are a few people in the Producers Club that were, still stuck in that mentality of, hey, I can't accept this version of Adam Kokesh. They know you as the civil disobedience dancer, shotgun loader, freedom flag bearer, and to see this switch and this change, they can't come to an understanding. And really, I think they'll learn to accept their slavery over time. I really do. I think that there's a part of this conversation that we were missing as libertarians, that we were thinking that, oh, we can change the world with 100 views at a time. No, we need to embrace the statist mindset, accept our slavery, produce the news as honest journalists to the state agenda. And once we've accomplished that, you may very well chance in 2024 of getting that statist vote and really showing people that slavery is the answer. Freedom is a mistake, and we should be using our vote as force against our neighbor. That's really the answer.
It's great to hear your daughters in the background there, CJ. We got one more technical note at least, right? We've got, well, you want to explain our channels? We're basically waiting for Adam Loves the Man as the YouTube channel to be approved. And we're using your channel for today.
Well, so YouTube censored, your former message. And so we in what will probably historically be one of our last acts of civil disobedience, just to keep you on the platform itself, your voice on the platform. We are broadcasting just through my small channel, just to see if the algorithms pick it up and have an issue with it that way. And so really the goal is to get us onto Adam Loves the Man YouTube channel. I believe you can start subscribing there now, but we just can't start live streaming until we go through their validation process. And once that's over, we can start to build up. We'll reach their benchmarks, and hopefully the censors will see that we have fundamentally transformed the message of freedom, and they'll actually promote our work, and we will be able to be in that trendy spot that everybody covets. And so
right. I CJ, thank you so much. I really, that reminds me, I would like to take this opportunity to address the YouTube censors directly and first apologize for all my criticism of the past, but also point out that what we're doing now with this new format of the show is not only well within the YouTube community guidelines as they are clearly defined on your website, but this is also really supportive of that. And I hope you recognize that popularity and authority go hand in hand. And as I support your authority to control the conversation on YouTube and censor it for the good of the people of the world, I mean, you're so important now. There really aren't any alternatives. And that you have such influence over the human conversation, what people are able to see and what gets out there, what people can talk about. I wholeheartedly support you in that mission. And I would also like to point out that at adamlovestheman.com, there's actually a document that we've got, a blog post where we talk about how we can strengthen the YouTube community guidelines and the censorship mechanisms of YouTube over time, so that we can get humanity on the same page, we can get more uniformity, we can start marching forward together, at least closer to lockstep. And I want to thank you all at YouTube for having a major role to play in this process. So hopefully you guys see this and realize that not only should you approve of youtube.com/Adam Loves the Man, but promote it. The way that that most statist broadcasts are promoted over those that you have censored in the past. Does that cover everything we need to say there, CJ?
Yes, sir. And again, just for the record, you can go start subscribing. So if you want to, get this seen on YouTube, please go over, start subscribing early. As soon as that's verified, we will be broadcasting, and I will be checking those boxes appropriately if there are sensitive issues that the censors need to have flagged for our videos, and hopefully they will judge accordingly and fairly, and hopefully I'll be able to do a better job of making sure the appropriate censor box is checked.
All right. A couple other in that. Well, CJ, anything else in producers' notes? I'm gonna mention the guest, and we got a really amazing guest. Oh
Well,
my gosh, I'm gonna
you've
set
already,
this guy up.
you've already said the website, the Patreon. As far as producer notes go, I would just say that we have our sponsor, Cigar Federation, and
Yes, I was gonna get to that, but let's finish the thought about broadcasting format, because we are still broadcasting on Facebook, and I guess if I could get a message out to the censors at Facebook as well. Well, I haven't. I in the past, I think Facebook did an inadequate job of censoring libertarian Adam. Really, I had a few memes taken down for being graphic, and they were really over the line, revealing the victims of war, showing actual dead bodies. That there's just no place for that. I mean, that's the kind of thing that needs to be censored, so that government can conduct the righteous violence that it needs to without being challenged or questioned. But we have been, I think, significantly shadow banned on Facebook, and it's kind of strange to see that with as many followers and friends, and we've switched from pages and professional pages and fan pages and blah blah blah. Now it's all just on my personal page, and when we restarted there, we were starting from my 5,000 friends, and since then, I've got 25-something thousand followers there. So hopefully, if people are watching this right now on Facebook, if you have, or if you're not, if you're watching this on one of our other platforms, we're also on Periscope, which should have us live on Twitter at twitter.com/Adam Kokesh. And I think it's the same thing there, Adam Kokesh, Kokesh on Periscope if you go there directly. So wherever you're watching this, if you could go to your other platforms and share it there too, and make sure that this message that I have directly speaking to the censors at Facebook now, you see that I support your manipulation of the conversation on Facebook for our own good. I mean, if you let people follow sources of information that they think are important and see them in their feed when they're putting out misinformation, there's a lot of room for fraud there. And I think instead of helping people think for themselves, it's really awesome what Facebook has done in doing a certain amount of thinking for us. So Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, whoever it is, Sheryl Sandberg, who happens to be managing their censorship operation, their content control. Again, I would similar to what I would say for YouTube, if anything, there's so much potential with your platform, Facebook, to help unify humanity. And I think you should be more unabashed in your censorship and support of politicians, in terms of what ads you let on and what kind of fact checking that you do. But I mean, I would say fact check everything. There's no reason to give Facebook users that burden of having to think for themselves in terms of when they see a post, of deciding whether it's true or not. And it really does slow down humanity when we're not marching in lockstep. So thank you to the Facebook censors for all of your glorious essential work. And I hope that you'll see now that with the message that we're bringing you with Adam Loves the Man, we're much more in line with your general mission. And Twitter as well. I guess to Jack Dorsey, I would say it's about time you start censoring the news directly. We've covered recently the New York Post. I'm not even going to name sensitive names here. No, because that's inappropriate, and that's the job. Again, it's the same thing like with Facebook. Why would you at Twitter let people or force people? I mean, this is one place that I don't support the use of force. these social media platforms should not be forcing their users to think for themselves. That's crazy. They really do need to step up and control their content more for our safety and to remove that burden. And so thank you, Jack Dorsey, for stepping it up with Twitter, because you really were behind, and you're just now starting to catch up. Although the pornography thing, I don't know, we'll leave that for another day. But yeah, Jack, thank you for stepping up and engaging in that kind of direct censorship now. I think that's absolutely critical, to getting humanity on the same page. So last part of the introduction here before we get to your comments and comment Jim. Oh, CJ, you got something else?
Last part of producer notes, and then Jim was coming on. I was just preparing. That's all.
Okay, yeah. So get Cigar Federation up there, cigarfederation.com. We're so grateful that our corporate sponsors have stuck with us throughout this transition. If you go to cigarfederation.com, promo code ADAM10 gets you 10% off your order. Check that out. You'll really enjoy the deals there. All right, I think that's it for makethemdebate.com. Really fun new website for sponsoring debates. And I would highly encourage you to go there. It's check out the format. I mean, take a few minutes, poke around, see what they offer for a way that you can personally engage with your favorite people who you would want to see debate. And you can create new debates. You can what you do is you make a pledge, and with I think it's credit, debit, or PayPal or something like that. And the money is not collected unless both participants agree and the debate happens, or so something to that effect. But check it out. It's a really cool mechanism. And I'm so grateful that we have our very own debate manager for Adam Loves the Man with Mercedes from Nebraska. So if you want to send me an email, do we have an email? We're still working. See, the brand change is slowing down some of our online presence, technical development, and social media and everything might take a while to catch up, but we'll get there. So bear with us as we go through this branding transition. CJ?
I do have one more note for you, sir. I'm from Meth Dakota, not North Dakota. So, but yeah, that's neither here nor there. So we do have comment Jim Freedom backstage. Are you ready?
Yeah, but let me just say first, while you're bringing him on, as our guest today is none other than Aria DiMezzo from New Hampshire. You might have heard of, I'm just going to say this guy, because I really don't know what to think about this, but you might have heard of this guy as the transgender satanic anarchist. I will say that they refer to themselves as a she-male. Her website is Aria DiMezzo for Sheriff, and it's I definitely don't want to say what they're trying to say with their website here, but it's F Sheriff *** the police. If you can't figure that out, be grateful that you haven't been exposed to any kind of subversive messaging. But if you can't figure it out, I apologize for invoking that word. But yeah, Aria has been making waves nationally with their run for sheriff in New Hampshire this year, and is the Republican nominee. Yeah, we're gonna untangle this knot a little bit. CJ, do you have anything else?
No, I'm just ready to go with
Stay on for comments.
Yeah, these comments. Yeah,
let's do it. Comment, Jim. Welcome to the show. How you doing, brother?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll just start from the top with the comments. I'm a status says Trump did it. He is felonizing the AR and other quote large framed pistols. This is great for statism.
Yeah. Gun control is a tricky one. But I just my long-term prayer here is that government becomes so effective that firearms for anything other than recreational use are completely unnecessary.
1054 just picked up a new set of rose-colored glasses. He says they fit great.
Excellent.
Let's see. Craig Doherty is warning people, beware of the slippery slope of libertarianism.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's going to come up with Aria here. There's most libertarians, most Americans who would identify as libertarians and libertarian leaning are still generally good, authority supporting people. They're constitutionalists. They at least believe in the framework of our current power structure. But then you see punks like Aria here and identifying as an anarchist libertarian. I mean, there's your slippery slope. Absolute nonsense. And it's just, and this is the thing. It's like when you give up your faith and authority, it's like giving up your faith in God or in Jesus, and as your life falls apart, if you waver in your commitment to truth, eventually you can't tell what the truth is.
Coco Steve says, I hope you get the contract to burn all the marijuana.
Oh, so today's title for the show, Burn All the Marijuanas, is a reference to our top news story. Very exciting to see that the drug war is trucking along nicely. So we've got a pretty cool article about that. We'll come back to it.
Status is wondering if CJ gave his kids Red Bulls.
That's the only thing. It's as sugary cereal as we can get, and then we don't use milk, we use Red Bull.
Craig Doherty wants to know, is Mr. Kokesh running as an R or a D in 2024?
Well, I mean, I can't even decide who to vote for. I mean, it really doesn't matter, right? I mean, if now, and this is if, since yesterday, there has been significant speculation with this sudden rise in popularity that I should run for president in 2024, and because people have gotten a new confidence in me personally, and in my genius and being able to serve humanity by taking on the levers of power of the federal government. And my decision to run Republican or Democrat would, basically be the same as Trump's. And remember, Trump seems to be more sort of playing the Republican Party game. But he used to be a Democrat. Either way, you see that Trump's objective as a politician is to increase the authority of his own power and the institution of the federal government of the United States of America. And so if it comes to this, my decision would be based on, probably which one would I be more likely to win with. And, assuming that I would win with either, then it would be which party would empower me to grow government more. And it really is a tough call. It really is a tough call right now between the Republicans and Democrats. If you look, CJ, I don't know if you can pull this one up. Let's see how fast you are. There's a graphic out there of the growth of the United States federal government over time, with vertical red bars and blue bars that represent terms of Republican and Democrat presidents. And it shows that, the growth of government has been, a pretty consistent upward curve, even outpacing population growth over the last 200 years of American history. Was that enough to get you a search on it, CJ? Yeah, all right, there we go. That's it. U.S. federal government size as measured by spending by president / political party. And as you can see here, the general upward trend of the size of government really, and that last See, a lot of people think that the Democrats are the party of big government. And they're really not. If you look at on this chart, I believe the 8 bars, or what is that? 7 bars to the right. I guess you found one that was probably done in.
Yeah, this one doesn't account for Donald Trump.
Right.
It just goes through Obama.
So this was done through 2015 data with the second to last year of Obama's presidency. And you can see that he actually significantly reduced the size of government over the course of his presidency. And this is one of the things that people I think needs to be rewritten about the history about Obama, in that he was gave us Obamacare, which was a great step in the right direction, of course. And really grew government power. And you can say that
but that mandatory mandate though on Obamacare, mandatory though.
Right. No, I know. And that's what I'm saying, that the increase in power of government, might compensate for him allowing government to shrink, to backslide there in spending by that one metric, right? I mean, spending could go down at the federal level, and government control could go up at the state and local level, or there are budgeting tricks where you can see government is still more relevant and more powerful, even if getting smaller. But honestly, I'm as much as I love Barack Hussein Obama, it's hard to avoid this one central objection that I have to his presidency, which was that, I'll say it 2 different ways, but it's essentially the same thing. One, that he allowed the size of government to backslide, and that he did not fully embrace the levers of power at his disposal to increase government authority. Like during Obama's presidency, hold on, let's do a little quick history search. Epidemics during Obama's presidency, I think there were several on scale with Corona, and Obama did not declare a national state of emergency. He did not increase the power of government as radically as Trump and the current Congress has with Corona. And I think that, with that, there were so many missed opportunities in the Obama administration. Okay, so I just did a Google search, epidemics during Obama's presidency, and the first thing is Reuters, partly false claim Ebola, SARS, swine flu, and Zika outbreaks happened when former President Barack Obama was. So anyway, there were a couple, right? There was SARS, swine flu, Zika. And even if these didn't occur, Ebola, I think, again, Obama could have used them more effectively to grow government power. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes absolute sense. I don't think Jim's going to agree with any of that, but I think there is a missed opportunity in the benefit to society overall in increased taxation through, this coercion and this threat of violence known as taxation. But really, when you look at it as taxation being your civil duty to a government, it really can change your perspective to, like I said, accept your slavery. And it's not easy for everybody, Adam. A lot of us were waking up libertarians yesterday morning and became statists overnight, and it's a transition that a lot of us are going to get used to. I'm embracing my statism as we speak. I have my Admiralty Law gold fringed flag, and I think that there's something to be said with presidents. It's like Donald Trump and Joe Biden. It's like asking, which one of your kids do you love more or less?
Right.
And being a parent, your children do control you. So, really, these childish behaviors, really it's peacocking, political peacocking. And I think that, it's hard to judge them each differently. But honestly, I think that it comes down to, like you said, who's going to grow government more, who's going to further increase the taxation, who is going to put us into a perpetual cycle of more endless wars. In fact, I don't think we have enough war, Adam, honestly.
Well, CJ, I mean, really the objective is for authorities to be so effective at controlling their populations that we get to a point of global government at some point where war is really unnecessary, except perhaps, excuse me, to put down rebellions. But I want to say something else here that I'm really grateful for the way you worded that about turning back to statism. It really is a testament to the truth of statism, of authority, and the virtue of authority, that people are so easily called back to it. That it's very hard to fool someone into being a libertarian. It takes a lot of work, a lot of lies and deception and propaganda. But to make someone a statist, it's very easy. It's just hey, point out the truth, and people go, oh yeah, got it.
I mean, Adam, it's better to die, to live on your knees than it is to die on your feet.
Oh yeah, I would live on my knees. I mean, you're alive, right? I mean, shit. That's
right.
just crazy. It's a suicide pact, essentially, libertarianism.
Yeah. You're basically saying that the government can kill you in the name of protecting its racketeering, and really, in all honesty, once you turn back to statism, it's not racketeering; it's organized prosperity for all Americans.
We do have to get to some news, but before we do, I want to see, and CJ, stay on for this. Are there any comments, Jim, about whether I should support Trump or Biden this year?
No, nothing in that specific lane. Nobody.
Nothing.
Gives a
nothing.
Man.
I mean, this is a collective effort, people. We all need to pull together. All right. Well, then let's just get on to our first news story, shall we?
Well, Adam, real quick, we were going to go through these comments from yesterday. I'll do Jim's job for him here real quick. I wanted to get your response to some of these comments. So you must, this is after the fact, after we were live. You can kind of just see some of the reactions. If there's anything on here that you think is, some people think this is comedy. I don't understand why they're not taking this message of statism so seriously. But a lot of people, as you can see as we go through this, are I mean, like, healthy disrespect for authority. He puked in his mouth a little bit. There's a certain comment theme going on where, like you see here with Daniel, where, oh, wait a minute, I just realized what's happening. There was one person in here, I can't seem to find it, that said they can't tell if you're being sarcastic. So I just kind of wanted you to speak to the comment threads that are commenting after the fact, that are just not accepting this new Adam Kokesh.
I don't know. I'm kind of a lost for words. I just, from my time as a libertarian, I can say that in that den of thieves and miscreants and punks and losers, we see online subversive efforts in social media that occasionally can have an impact. Fortunately, between the social media censors, the mainstream media, and government troll farms, we're able to counteract most of what they have to say and render them irrelevant. But occasionally, these people, if you can call them that, are capable of sort of at least having a limited presence here or there. And so I would just dismiss the majority. First of all, I mean, the majority of comments on the internet our AstroTurf, so to speak, one way or another. And I would just kind of dismiss all those comments out of hand. All right. First news story. You want to pull it up, shall we? Give me the cue. Let's get it on screen. From marijuanamoment.net, DEA seeks contractor capable of burning 4 tons of marijuana per day. And when I see a story like this, I'm just I have a lot of mixed emotions. I mean, not mixed. I guess it's really like just positive, complimentary emotions. I am so grateful to see that right now, a lot of people have this false idea that the drug war is coming to an end. And it's kind of an interesting political dilemma that we find ourselves in today, where a significant portion of the population wants there to be no control of what's out there, and no one to tell you what's safe and what isn't. And I'm very confident that this is going to pass. And right now, our government is doing, in the United States at least, a pretty good job of just sort of like barely creating the illusion of legality with cannabis while increasing the number of drug arrests. And this, you can look up the statistics for yourself. We've covered this story before, where despite the increase in states that nominally say, oh, we have legal medical cannabis or legalized recreational cannabis, the number of drug arrests for cannabis overall nationally are still going up. And just to reinforce that narrative, I would share you this story with you that is so encouraging. DEA seeks contractor capable of burning 4 tons of marijuana per day. The Drug Enforcement Administration recently reached out for help burning at least 1,000 pounds of marijuana per hour for 8 hours straight. Every year, DEA seizes millions of marijuana plants and literal tons of raw cannabis, which eventually end up being destroyed. The successful contractor in Arizona would be responsible for burning marijuana and other controlled substances seized as evidence in drug cases to a point where there are no detectable levels as measured by standard analytical methods of byproduct from the destruction process. You know, seeing as you know, I live in Arizona myself, I think this would be something I'd be interested in pursuing as a government contract. I think that it would be an incredible way to serve my country, to help get these drugs off the streets. And one of the reasons this is so important, and we talked about this even just yesterday, that cannabis really is a dangerous drug. It you know, obviously we know that it makes white women want black men, and there's well, we'll leave it at that. I mean, you can go back and watch you know, some of the early, although problematic films like Reefer Madness, and you know, our understanding of the dangers of this plant have advanced since then to a certain degree. But what's really important to keep in mind is that cannabis or marijuana or pot or dope is really insidious, because it kind of tricks you into thinking that it's harmless. It tricks you into thinking that it has medical benefits. But what it does to your mind is really so destructive, because it creates a kind of relaxed, open state. And you think that that's what you're in, that you're just better able to accept information and to you know, see the reality of what's going on in a way that you weren't without it. But what it's really doing is creating that illusion while making you more rebellious, making you actually directly question authority. And I mean, I could go on and on about all the negative problems with that, right? You know, that if you question authority, next thing you know, you've got riots in the streets, you've got people doing whatever drugs they want, you've got, you know, people dying on the sidewalks, rampant homelessness, all these things. I mean, you can't let people make these decisions for themselves. This is why we have the FDA. I mean, we need government to tell us what drugs are safe. And, with DEA versus FDA, I think they really should be combined into one super agency so that we have a unified system of controlling any sort of, material danger to the human body or mind. And the government can keep all these dangerous substances out of Americans' hands. So back to the story. DEA shall inspect the incinerator to ensure no drug residue remains. Yeah, looking at some of the comments here, I think there were some punks who were like, oh yeah, I'm going to burn that pot and smoke it myself. Right. As if you could get away with that. DEA posted the work description earlier this month in what's called the sources sought notice, an initial step before a formal request for proposals is sent. And the post says this is not a request. This is not a request for proposals and does not obligate the government to award a contract. The DEA is conducting market research and encouraging all businesses, including small businesses, to respond to this notice. So, I would just, if you have a chance to call your congressman, and tell them that you support this, to make sure that this goes through, tell them that you want to see government burn all the marijuanas. I want to see government burn all the marijuanas, get rid of them all, incinerate them. So there's an accompanying statement of work. I think it's a behind the scenes look. And I'm sorry, I got to go back and complete the thought here. If you have an opportunity to call a member of Congress, or especially now in this last week before the election, when voters are especially connected with our political leaders, and they're getting out and they're campaigning and meeting people face to face, let them know that you support this, that you want to make sure that despite the false rhetoric of legalization of medical and recreational cannabis, that we see the drug war continue to actually escalate overall. So eventually we can win the war on drugs. Drugs are going to lose, and this is the reason this is. Oh, and if you want to contact the DEA, of course, fan mail, just letters of support. I'm sure. If they see that people are watching this and they know they have the public support behind them, they're going to be that much more unabashed in exercising their authority to burn all the marijuanas. And I really want to see that happen. So I hope you'll at least lend your voice to the drug war so that it can be won and done. And I think this is a really important story for everyone to take note of, that despite this illusion that politicians have to put out now of drug legalization, government is still strong. Government is still doing a great job of keeping us safe and making sure that the only food and drugs available to us are ones that are government approved. All right, our next story from popculture.com. 60 Minutes anchor Leslie Stahl's family gets death threat following controversial Donald Trump interview. CBS's Leslie Stahl now has around-the-clock security after she and her family received death threats following her controversial 60 Minutes interview with President Donald Trump. Broadcast on the network Sunday, that interview gained attention in the days leading up to its airing after the president walked out and criticized Stahl publicly on Twitter, stating that the interview was fake and biased. According to law enforcement sources and multiple other sources who spoke to TMZ, a death threat call was reported to LAPD right now. I don't want to get too far into this sordid story, but I do want to point out that if you're a Trump supporter, and I just want to take this opportunity to condemn Leslie Stahl. I mean, this is what she did was just absolutely shameful. And in some countries, you get beheaded for doing what she did. And she should be grateful that she lives in America, where, at least we have a compassion for traitors like her, who, so anyway, just I'll say this much about, or read this much about the interview. The Sunday night segment featured a contentious back and forth between Stahl and Trump as the anchor pressed the president on a number of issues, including the coronavirus pandemic, his statements regarding suburban women, and his comments regarding fake news. It was the latter topic that eventually prompted Trump to walk out of the interview, accusing Stahl of asking his Democratic opponent, Joe Biden, softball questions while giving him harder ones, stating, "I think we have enough of an interview here. That's enough. Let's go." Trump left the interview and did not return for a joint interview with Vice President Mike Pence or the scheduled walk around the White House grounds. Now, I get two other things I got to point out in analysis of this story is what a great job Trump did in handling this. It really shows what compassionate, humane leadership we have in America today. I mean, he could have ordered her shot for treason. I know it's been a while, but technically, legally, he would be well within the authority of the presidency to order her at least immediately locked up, if not executed. We are in a national emergency right now. Technically, we are still in a state of war with the global war on terror. And when someone pulls something like this, I would certainly understand, why they would want to do that. And that's why, and so the other thing I'll point out here is that that's why Trump supporters want to do that. And I understand that maybe the average Trump supporter can't live up to the level of compassion that we have in our great president today, Donald Trump. But this is, it's good to see that the sentiment is clear, that America will not tolerate traitors like CBS's Leslie Stahl anymore. So let's see, I think we get to one more news story and some comments. Or should we? Let's do comments. Okay, our guest is ready. So let's get to them on time and do comments first. Jim, Jim. What do you got for us? Anybody helping out in this final decision for 2020?
No, I haven't come across anyone yet that's ready. Couple of people are agreeing with you that burning all the marijuanas would help with the drug war.
Yeah.
Jimmy hopes you're wearing shorts.
No, I'm wearing a full suit. That would be silly.
I don't know why they would even suggest that. Empty Matter, ban the reefer. The Magic Dragon has puffed its last puff.
Well, we still got a ways to go, but yes, we'll get there. We'll get there.
All right. So Angela Cook, I suppose, is still confused because she's hoping you're satire. So I guess we have a live viewer like CJ brought up last time.
Well, I think you really just need to listen directly to the words coming out of my mouth and hear the truth ring true with you. And you'll understand what we're doing here. And you'll see that this is the truthiest version of any media production I've ever done.
This, I'm a status. I guess this is a suggestion of who you should vote for. I don't know if it's possible, but he says Adam should contact the great patriot George Soros, get another ballot, and vote for both. Simple and patriotic.
Well, I mean, it's tempting. It's really tempting because but no, that would. I mean, it's tempting because then I could say no matter who wins, I voted for the winner, and that's half the point of voting. If I'm going to vote, that would be illegal, and I wouldn't encourage people to break the law in any way. I wouldn't. But it's a fun little thought exercise. Yes. But no, that doesn't. I guess that would. So far, that's the leading comment in our contest today, in helping decide should we go. Should I be voting for Trump or Biden? So yeah, it's a good, clever answer. Absolutely.
Well, that's the person that has won the contest 3 different times. Even the last time, he said he was going to email me to get access to the Producers Club, but he has yet to. So,
well, hopefully, the new format or editorial angle for the show will provide him with the inspiration that it has given to everybody else in the Producers Club and in our core team.
Philip Anderson is making a bold move today. I'm turning myself in for all the pot I'm on today. I should be ashamed of myself for not pursuing medicine from Big Pharma.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a little specific. Of course, I'm not going to comment on anybody's individual situation, but just like Catholics have the tradition of confessional, we as U.S. citizens really need to develop a similar culture of confession to government and taking responsibility for our crimes. And I'm grateful for anybody promoting that.
Okay, Ben Heckman suggests Joe Biden is better than Trump because he'll actually start a new war, which will be great for the economy.
I don't know. That's an interesting way of looking at this, because Donald Trump has done a great job of increasing militarism while pretending to be non-interventionist, which is, of course, a silly isolationist ideal. But yeah, which one would be better at deploying the military to move us to a more unified humanity? That's a tough call. Ben, I think you're going to have to follow up. And if Ben could take the lead on this one, if he gives us a good follow-up comment to back that up, a few sentences analysis of Trump's ability to increase militarism in the service of humanity versus Biden's. Make sense?
Sure. Okay.
All
right. Philip Anderson says, Adam, considering how intelligent you are, I am more than positive that you can burn more canna than any other contractor. You have my vote.
Thank you. If only it was. Well, fortunately, we don't have to vote on these things. We don't have, this is the thing about a free market as this, silly ideal that, I should say the danger. This is the danger of an unfettered free market, is that everybody gets to vote with their dollars continuously. And that means that your burden of thinking for yourself is so high that there's no way you can handle it. You go crazy. So this is why we need the authorities to take over certain functions of society so that we don't have to think about them. And fortunately, hiring a contractor to get this cannabis and drug disposal deal with the DEA is not subject to a popular vote, but I appreciate your support. What would be more helpful if you wanted to help me get this contract, and we'll talk offline later, would be to have dinner with a politician and slip them some money under the table, or threaten someone at the DEA. Nothing illegal. I would never do it. Just we're within the lines of what you can legally do, of course. But that's how these contracts are awarded. And anyway. All right. So let's get to our guest today. This is very exciting. Our guest today is Aria DiMezzo. And they made headlines earlier this year as a transgender satanic anarchist running for sheriff in New Hampshire and winning the Republican nomination. They even got an article on Snopes.com about this because a lot of people doubted the headlines. And the headline on Snopes is, "A giant middle finger to the entire system. Trans anarchist Satanist runs for sheriff." Now, Aria, given who you are, you're very brave for coming on the show. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
So is this correct? You identify as a transgender anarchist Satanist?
That is correct, yes.
Have you looked into conversion therapy?
I have not personally. I've seen that sort of thing and how it generally works out, and it doesn't work out very well, as it turns out. So, I'm happy with who I am and what I am. I did convert. I went through conversion therapy from Christianity to Satanism, so maybe that counts.
Well, tell us about that. Tell us about that transformation, if you would, please.
Well, it was a very long one, obviously. No one just goes from being a Christian to being a Satanist overnight. So I just sort of fell out of touch with Christianity as I was growing up, and ultimately I explored a number of pagan religions and alternative religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Wicca, and none of them really seemed right with me. I was still caught up in the belief that there is some sort of higher power in the universe and that, Christianity was just leading me to the wrong one. Ultimately, I realized I was looking for something that was. I became an atheist, and I discovered that the best way to actually push back against the Puritanism and the Christian stronghold that is the United States is through Satanism, which ultimately is just adversarialism. And the adversary of the day would oppose the state because the state is the largest religion in the world right now.
Well, as long as you're still with an organized religion, I think that's good, and as much as I might have a problem with certain elements of Satanism, at least you have a collective and an authority structure there around this church. So I think that's great. But what you're doing with this race, really is incredibly anti-American and irresponsible.
How so?
I want to make my position clear here and give you a chance to respond and just expose how irresponsible and ridiculous what you're proposing here is. But we're talking about running for sheriff as a Republican, and the sheriffs of the United States are critical as a function of government in keeping the American people safe. And if you're a middle finger to the entire system, what you're saying is that not only is none of this legitimate, but that you don't take it seriously. And for the American people, I'm glad that there's been such a strong negative response to your campaign, and people are seeing that you're basically just a punk looking for attention.
Well, there really hasn't been a lot of negative attention to me or to the campaign because hatred isn't very motivating for people. If someone sees the headlines or they read an article about me and they hate me, it's not going to motivate them to actually look me up, to go to my website, to shoot me an email, or to look me up on Facebook, or some people have even looked up my address, but it was all to send me positive communications, not negative ones.
Hold on, no, that's not fair. Now, I think you're really whitewashing things here because you had your car vandalized with a graphic slanderous message. And I think it's worth pointing out that there are people here who said that they don't want you in New Hampshire. They don't want you to have any position of authority. They want you to get in line with the way the rest of us are in society. They want you to get healthy. So no, this is true, correct? That you had graffiti on your vehicle that actually had a homophobic slur. I'll just leave it at that. Whatever you want to say about that.
I did, but the timing of it is such, I'm not convinced it was related to the campaign. This happened while I was at work the night that the news went viral, the night that Fox News covered it, and then it just went national and then international. So unless they were just sitting there glued to their phones watching the news come in, I don't honestly believe it was related to my campaign at all. It was just transphobic to make a statement. I think it's probably just coincidental. I don't see any reason to believe that it was related.
Have you been able to gain any kind of meaningful traction or support for this campaign? And do you have any kind of serious policy proposals?
I absolutely do. And I have absolutely gained what appears to be a fair amount of traction. Of course, I won't know until next Tuesday. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. But by and large, people on the streets, they congratulate me. They tell me they're going to vote for me. When I go into a convenience store, they tell me they support me. They're going to vote for me. So the word here on the ground in Cheshire County is that the Democrats overwhelmingly support me. It's very hard to say because you don't see Eli Rivera's sign in any of these yards. Eli Rivera is the current incumbent candidate for the Democratic Party for the same office. None of his signs are in any of the yards that have Biden-Harris signs in them. So it's hard to predict where these people actually stand, but I'm interested in finding out. And I do have policies. The number one thing I will do when I win the election is creating new policy where the deputies can either sit in the office and wait for a crime to be reported where there is an actual victim, or they can go out and police the police, or they can quit. Those are their options. But as far as this actually going out and policing people, no. If we want to actually prevent crime, then we have to look at where the crime is occurring, and the crime is being committed by and large by the police.
Yeah, none of that really makes any sense. But speaking of your opponent, Democrat Eli Rivera, the reason you have been able to sneak in and pull this off essentially is that in your county in New Hampshire, Eli Rivera, the current sheriff, elected Democrat, is so effective and so popular that the Republicans didn't organize a serious campaign, and you were able to sneak in. And I think that it shows you have no chance of winning or even making an impact. You might get your punk statement out there, but Eli Rivera is such an effective sheriff and has so much love and support from the people there, that no one wants to run against him except you. That he is the law and order candidate in this race, and I have absolute confidence that he's going to win re-election. So, your response?
Well, he is definitely the law and order candidate in this election. There's no doubt of that. The Republicans normally do run a serious, well, I'm a serious candidate as well. They do normally run a candidate named Earl Nelson, but he didn't run this year because he was recovering from cancer. I'm glad he's okay, but he didn't run this year, so I filed in his place. As to him being the one order candidate, that's absolutely true. I don't think he's doing a very good job, and I don't think he's actually got a lot of support from people. He's very well known within the elites of the Democratic Party, the type who show up for the Democratic Party meetings and all of that. But the actual Democratic voters, they know that I'm to the left of him. So the progressives, the young ones, the liberals, because Cheshire County is a liberal stronghold in New Hampshire, as is the city of Keene, which is where I live. Very Democratic, very progressive, very, very left-leaning. So if you have a candidate who's to the left of the Democratic candidate, I suspect a lot of these people who are actual leftists will vote for me for those reasons. They may still vote for Rivera. They may just vote. They may just vote straight ticket. It's hard to say.
Right, and that gets to one of the things that you've been trying to point out here, and I do want to say I agree with it. That there's one thing that I agree with you here in pointing out with your campaign. I do. This is one of the reasons I want to interview. I mean, really, the only reason, aside from being able to put you in your place, is that you have repeatedly said that the reason you were able to win this nomination was because old party voters, Republicans and Democrats, they vote straight ticket, they vote without thinking, they vote without question. And I think that's absolutely true, that we have straight ticket voting in a lot of states where, and this is, by the way, important public service announcement here, and this will keep you from throwing any of your votes away if you make mistakes as you're voting next week, as you go down the ballot. If you're lucky enough to live in one of these states that has straight ticket voting, you can just check a box at the top that says all Republicans or all Democrats, and then there's no chance that you might accidentally vote for a libertarian or someone who doesn't deserve your vote with another, an independent or someone else on a down ticket race. But I think I take the opposite interpretation of this, Aria, in that we need more of that. We need to strengthen the parties. We need to make sure that you can vote, and we need to get straight ticket voting in the rest of the state.
Funnily enough, New Hampshire used to have straight ticket voting, but they got rid of it in 2007. And just recently, the idea began circulating again that, hey, maybe we need to bring this back, in full disregard of, what just happened with me winning the Republican nomination. Whether people just fill in one circle or they fill in 20 circles, it really doesn't make a huge difference. They're not thinking for themselves. They're just voting for whoever is there, voting based on the letter next to a person's name. And that's dangerously reckless. That's how you get people in California and Arkansas and Texas who are completely and totally ignorant about the people who are voting for, determining who gets to rule my life here in New Hampshire. And I oppose that system. But yes, I
So-
did expect to win, but I didn't expect to win by 4,000 votes.
So you describe yourself as an anarcho-capitalist, which sounds like a bit of an oxymoron and kind of two extreme, absurd, idealistic terms. Doesn't that discredit you as someone seeking public office? If you identify as an anarchist and say, well, I'm going to take on this government power, and wouldn't that result in the people in your district or your county saying, no, can't trust this person?
Well, it's been a few years since I called myself an anarcho-capitalist. I prefer just anarchist or voluntarist now, which is that I believe all interactions should be done with the informed consent of all involved parties. So I choose to say I'm a voluntarist now. And of course, we have the state apparatus in place and there's nothing voluntary about it. So there is absolutely a level of contradiction between being a voluntarist and working for this system that perpetuates the need to engage in involuntary interactions with the state. But I can't really do any good. There would be no chance of winning if I actually stuck to my principles. It was like, look, if I was made sheriff, I'm going to abolish the entire department and privatize it. That would not be very helpful. I mean, the police in the United States, they're out there committing actual aggression. They're kidnapping people, they're extorting people, they're murdering people. And the best position to do anything about that is the sheriff's office. You know, you have these city councils who are arguing that, oh, we need to defund the police. Yeah, maybe, but you're never going to actually do it. However, the sheriff's departments throughout the United States, but especially here in New England, where a lot of the law is inherited from, England, the sheriff is the highest law enforcement official in the county. So the sheriff is legally authorized to get out there and impede police officers as they're conducting their BS investigations. If they see a police officer pulling someone over for a broken taillight and then getting out a canine unit and searching their vehicle, the sheriff's departments are the only ones who can do anything about that. If we see someone selling loose cigarettes and we see the police harassing them and putting them in strangleholds, the sheriff's department can actually interfere with that and place the police officers under arrest. They are legally authorized to do so. So that's the most that can be done right now to rein in the police, is to get sheriffs out there who want to actually police the police.
So one of the, by the way, I'm with you on the same page there, at least in one sense there, is that I want a stronger police force that the people have more confidence in, that the people are less likely to question. Although I wouldn't say this is the way to go about it. Now, there's an article in Boston Globe, how a transsexual Satanist anarchist trolled New Hampshire voters. Aria DeMetzel laid a trap for Republican voters in Cheshire County, and they walked right into it. And there's even a quote from you here. You tell me first if this is accurate. Quote, a lot of people are telling me I need to take this more seriously. If I had taken it more seriously, I wouldn't have won the nomination. Leave the trolling to the pros. Is that a correct quote?
That is. I mean, trolling wasn't the goal when I set out to do this. That was incidental.
So you reveal here that you're just trolling. That you're. So I'll give you the platform. Let's have it out here, Aria. What's your bigger message here? What as a troll? What are you? And I want my viewers to be able to look at this at this person here as someone who obviously has some delusions and derangements and really is just out of touch with reality entirely. And take that as context for what you're about to hear. Aria, what is your message as a troll?
My message as a troll, I don't really have one. I have a message that I want to get out there. The message of pro-freedom, pro-liberty, abolishing the government, seed from the United States, and living in peace and voluntarism with our fellow human beings, living in private contracts and, free markets. That's the message I want to get out there. Trolling was not the intention. The opportunity was there because Republicans were very angry when they realized who they had just made their sheriff candidate. And I thought about it for a little bit, thinking, this isn't my fault that they didn't research me. And that idea just sort of sat in the back of my mind as they became angrier and angrier on Facebook, in their little Facebook groups, until finally I realized, what? This is important. This is their fault, and they need to take responsibility for it. So trolling wasn't the goal here. Trolling was just a means to an end, and it wasn't even intentional. I didn't set a trap for them. They just blindly wandered off a cliff, and I happened to be at the bottom.
So one of the things that I have to frame this with for the benefit of my audience about just how out of touch with reality our guest is. And I just want to point out, I want to do everything I can to discredit this message. This is absolute insanity. And the Boston Globe article also says, she ran for sheriff as a libertarian 2 years ago and for city council last year with a platform to legalize magic mushrooms and eat the rich. So we're talking about cannibalism here. And for this year's campaign for sheriff, her lawn signs clearly feature the anarchist symbol of an A inside a circle, as well as the phrase F the police. And I said this earlier in the tease to this interview on today's show. CJ, get that off the screen. Get that off the screen. I don't want people down. No, just that's enough. That's fine. It's F star 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 the police. And if anyone in our audience is lucky enough to not know what Aria is trying to say with that, good for you for having a clean mind. But for those who do know what Aria is trying to say, I apologize for invoking that language as this campaign does. So, another quote here. Plus, I'm a 6 foot tall tranny with bright red hair and tattoos who drives around town in a red convertible. I'm very hard to forget. Are people in your community, reaching out to help you at least get on board with what a Republican is supposed to look like and sound like?
No, the Republican Party here in Cheshire County has been surprisingly non-commenting on my sheriff candidacy, as is the Democratic Party. They're all just refusing to comment. But I've actually challenged Marilyn Huston, who is the chair of the Cheshire County Republican Committee, to please explain to me exactly what I'm saying that is not 100% in line with Republican values. I'm pro-gun, I'm pro-Second Amendment, I'm pro-small government, and I'm pro-low taxes. I take that a little bit further than most Republicans to the point of no government, no all guns, but that's not necessarily in disagreement with the Republican platform. So maybe I take things a little bit further than they do, but if they actually believed in gun rights and small government and low taxes, then they would be standing behind me. Of course, they don't believe those things, which is why they're refusing to comment, because the comment they made about me would reveal them for being the hypocrites that they are.
Well, I mean, it's sort of like more of an open secret, Aria, and frankly, you're ruining this.
Yeah, good.
The point of running for office as a Republican is to give lip service to small government and then be able to still, with a more authoritarian spirit, grow government. And, this is like, when someone, if someone who has a very small penis and you make fun of them for it, like that's not appropriate. That's not something that you're supposed to, it's not a humane thing to do. And that's essentially what you're doing to the Republican Party there. I can't support this, but I want to go back and give people a little bit of a more of an insight to your background here. You moved to Keene, New Hampshire from Mississippi 2 years ago, and I've been to Keene. Here it's described as it says, drawn by a loose collective of libertarian activists known as Free Keene. DeMezzo has been hard to miss. She ran for sheriff as a libertarian 2 years ago. And then the thing about legalize magic mushrooms and eat the rich. But the loose collective of libertarian activists in Free Keene, I mean, this is, I've met these losers, and they said they're going to change things in Keene, and that they concentrate in one area, they can actually change government policy. And I would say that, what they call the Free State Project has been pretty much a failure. Government in New Hampshire has continued to grow. But tell us at least a little bit, if you would please, about your experience going from Mississippi to Keene, New Hampshire, please.
Sure. Well, I started my transition in Mississippi, and I came to the Porcupine Freedom Festival in 2017, and it was the first time that I just felt, accepted and welcome among a crowd of people. I was immediately sold on New Hampshire. Of course, then I didn't know anything about Free Keene. I hadn't even heard of the Free State Project, had no idea who that is. And they still don't like me very much because it turns out that, you know, they just want to be the Rand Paul type of libertarian. They don't want to actually be the fire and brimstone, time to burn down the state type of libertarian like we are here in Free Keene. The quote, loose collective of people who associate with Free Keene, we want to actually dismantle the government. The Free State Project seems to just want to get into the government to be Gary Johnson's. Gary Johnson's all people who actually, maybe they're classical liberals deep down inside, but by and large, there's not much that's actually libertarian about them. But the experience has been overwhelmingly positive. New Hampshire is the best place I've ever lived, and I've lived through a lot of places in the United States, including Las Vegas. So it's like I went from one of the hottest states in the United States to one of the coldest. But New Hampshire is a wonderful state. It's a beautiful state. Keene is absolutely the the place to be if you want to actually do something on the ground to dismantle apparatus, because this is crypto mecca. If you're into Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, this is where you should be, because we have the highest number of businesses per capita accepting cryptocurrency as payment, as, if I may be mistaken, anywhere else in the world. So we're actually taking steps here to actually distribute Bitcoin, to actually get businesses accepting Bitcoin, to get us away from the USD, the war dollar, the one that the government uses to drop bombs on people all around the world and to militarize the police, into a currency that they can't control and that they can't inflate. And in the long run, they wouldn't be able to pay for the militarization of police or the dropping of bombs, the fighter jets, or the nuclear weapons, or any of this other nonsense, because they can't inflate Monero. They can't inflate Bitcoin.
So what would you say is the summation of your worldview, your ideology, Arya?
That we have been taken over by warlords, and we've been ruled by warlords for a very, very, very long time. So long that they've worked out this perfect system to keeping us from realizing that they're warlords. They've created this entire mythology, this entire religious system around their ruling us. People buy into it. If you go into a courtroom, you see the exact same imagery that you would see in a church. You have your pews, you have your robed man in front who's preaching down from the pulpit. You have religious idolatry all over the walls. You've got the flag, you've got symbols, you've got emblems, you've got hymns, you've got prayers, you've got pledges of allegiance. It's just a religion. And it causes people to forget the reality of what they're actually dealing with. That same religious system, it pervades what they understand the police to be. They don't recognize, they think of police as being these honorable, upstanding people who are out there trying to help, or who are trying to help the people. But in reality, the police are just road pirates. They're not arresting people. They're kidnapping people. They're not ticketing people. They're extorting people. But the mythology of the state is so powerful that they don't realize that we persist in a constant state of cognitive dissonance, not being able to see the world that we actually live in. A lot of people want to call me delusional, but they're looking at the police kidnapping people and murdering people, and they're calling it society and law and order and civilization, and there's nothing civilized or lawful or ordered about any of this. That is the summary of.
Well, Arya, I want to thank you for taking the time this morning to come on our show and discredit this worldview thoroughly and expose the ridiculousness of these ideas. One other quote of yours I want to share from the Boston Globe article. I don't expect to win, and if I do, I suspect that the deputies will quit as soon as I'm sworn in. If not, I'm going to give them three options. You can stay at the station and play Xbox, you can go out and police the police, or you can go home. So we're talking about the chaos candidate, obviously, here. Arya, again, I do appreciate you taking the time and allowing for the examination of your ideas. Any final thoughts?
No, I'm just glad to be on, and I hope people consider what I've said today about the religious nature of the state, because that's where we have to strike. We have to shake people out of the mythology, to make them face the world that we actually live in, and stop allowing them to persist in delusional naivety about what is actually going on.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that was a very informative interview and got you a different perspective here. Before we got a few more news stories to get to, but before we do, let's check in with Comment Jim again. Any thoughts following up on that? I think that was very productive. as a foil, I'm really grateful that that Aria was there at least to to play the foil, to sort of play the devil's advocate in that conversation.
Yeah. Let's see. Lost it. Oh yeah. RHSCTJ says this person needs Rush Limbaugh or Joel Osteen, whatever.
Well, I just hope that the community, now that they see what a deranged individual they have there in Keene, New Hampshire, that they reach out with help and rehabilitation.
I'm a Status says she had the same idea I had, but she did it first before I took to the light of statism. The sheriff is the only constitutional law enforcement.
Right, and I mean that's what makes this such a dangerous sort of loophole that we have allowed to continue in the system, where or the Democratic Party, where they're so weak that they are running candidates unopposed, and we lose the healthy debate that we have going on in this country. I mean, it really is. If you step back and look at the overall debate between Democrats and Republicans, the political process is absolutely essential for America to have this conversation about how we move forward as a country in lockstep. We learn so much. We get so much confidence and authority from seeing a Republican debate a Democrat. And, it's one thing to give someone like Aria, a platform for a few minutes here on Adam Loves the Man, but absolutely got to keep people like that out of the bigger conversation and out of the debates.
I'm a Statist again says we can't legalize recreational uranium. That's lunacy.
Yeah, obviously. Thank you. Goes without saying. But any comments? Did anybody come up with any better reasons for me to support Trump or Biden this year?
Nope, not one. And
did we get a follow up from Mr. Heckman?
Follow up. Nope.
Oh.
Follow up.
All right. Well, then I would put this to the rest of the audience, because this is between Trump or Biden, and I would point out to you that of Trump's 8 vetoes as president, 5 of them were defending the military-industrial complex against an unwarranted and irresponsible attack that would weaken our nation from Congress limiting spending to the military. And so I'm really grateful that Trump has been able to do that and continue the war in Yemen, and for all the other interventionism that he's maintained. But there's still a lot of room for improvement there. There's still more he could do. And Biden, I don't, obviously you can't get as good of a feel on him with foreign policy, but you look at his past statements and his general support for the global war on terror. It could be that with a better managerial approach, he might be able to better apply the levers of power to serve American interests abroad with the military. So I put the question to the audience: between Trump and Biden, which one is more? I don't want to say which one is more pro-militarism, because they're both totally pro-militarism in spirit, right? And I don't want to judge these men as leaders based on their rhetoric. I want to judge by what they actually or their beliefs, but which one is going to be more effective as commander in chief. So we're giving away membership to the Producers Club today. Best comment answering that question could win it.
Ned Kelly, if we let people like Aria DiMizzo be sheriff, what's next? Individuals getting to choose what they do with their own bodies, lives, and property?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not worried about Aria. They're not going to win, and Aria wants you to think that she represents a loose thread, or that someone pulling at a loose thread on the sweater of authority, but it is a tightly woven security blanket around society that is, no, people like that don't represent a threat to them.
Okay. And lastly, Koi Shiano. War is good, don't you know? It allows the state to prosper.
Well, it's a temporary thing until we get to global government. Yeah, I see the necessity of war. I don't mind culling certain populations if necessary to advance authority and get us to a state of global harmony. So, all right, Jim.
Ben Heckman did chime in one more time. Ben Heckman chimed in. I think he basically said the same thing he said last time, though. He said Joe Biden is more likely to start a new war than Trump is based on the record of the Obama-Biden administration.
Okay. No, so he added the point about the Obama-Biden administration record. And that's a good point. But I was hoping for a little more substance than that, I suppose. Certainly, it's worth pointing out that Obama really pulled off an incredible feat as president. He has killed more people with drone strikes, more terrorists than all other Nobel Peace Prize winners combined. And what he did that was so incredible was that he convinced not just the Nobel Committee, but really a huge chunk of the world that war is peace. That you can get a Nobel Peace Prize while increasing war, because what he was able to do was show that smartly applied military power, and if you kill the right people, and bomb the right populations into submission, essentially, that you can make the world a more peaceful place.
That's okay. We got one more guess for who you should vote for. G Me says you should vote for Biden because he loves black people.
If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Meh. I'm not compelled. I'm not gonna step into that political drama.
Person now says you should vote Trump because he's a star.
That's nice. I get the advantage of that, but I'm not a single issue voter. Like who's the most famous? Obviously, the sitting president is essentially the most famous person in the world at any given time. So he's a star. Meh. One more nice thing about Trump.
Asks, would Adam join Turkey in the fight?
Join Turkey?
Yeah, the country, I imagine.
What fight? What's going on in Turkey? Did I miss something in the news today? Should I do a quick Google News search for Turkey? Let's see what comes up. Turkey's 4 deployed F-16s in Azerbaijan have moved to a new base. Turkey's finance minister rules out capital controls. Turkey U.S. consulate employee receives 5-year jail term. Turkey's Erdogan urges French goods boycott among Islam row. No, I'm not sure what that question still is referring to in terms of joining Turkey in the fight.
There's a war going on. It's like big news, she says.
Right, but when you say join Turkey in the fight, I assume you mean Turkey's government. And in that case, I certainly support the government of Turkey. But if they're doing something wrong in this, I wouldn't support it. And it seems like right now, a big part of this has to do with Emmanuel Macron and France's relationship with Turkey. And one of the headlines here is Turkey's Erdogan urges French goods boycott amid Islam row. So I don't know about that. What do you know about the situation, Jim?
Nothing at all.
Okay.
Ben Heckman says, "Fuck it, right in Kanye."
Hey, you can't say that on the show, Jim. Can't do that.
I was just reading. It was a direct quote.
Yeah, CJ's gonna have to bleep that out.
I'll censor that. Okay.
Yeah, no, come on, man. Community guidelines. All right. So let's get back to the news, and hopefully we'll have a few more comments about Trump versus Biden before we get to the end of the show today. All right, what do we have left here for headlines? From CBS, New York Police Department officer suspended without pay after being caught on video saying Trump 2020 over patrol cars loudspeaker. Now, this really, I think, is a critical story to helping the American people decide whether to vote for Trump or Biden. And it is actually something that I'm considering as a significant push for me towards voting for Trump, now seeing that Trump is the choice of the police. And remember, it is the thin blue line that protects society from the chaos of a world without people looking out for our safety, without people enforcing the law. And when I see an officer like this, and I know that they face these consequences, right? An NYPD officer suspended and under investigation after video surfaced of him saying Trump 2020 over a bullhorn while in a patrol car. Videos allegedly taken in Flatbush, Brooklyn, were posted on Twitter on Saturday night. Eric Jenkins Solon captured a 30-second video from his apartment. He told CBS 2's Corey James he hit record when he heard police and someone near the crosswalk at Crook Avenue and St. Paul Place get into a confrontation around 10 p.m. Quote, I heard someone say Trump 2020, and there's kind of some maybe low-key shouting back and forth. The NYPD's patrol guide bans on-duty or in-uniform officers from endorsing political candidates or publicly expressing personal views and opinions. I mean, this is absolutely terrible. I think the heroes in America's police force need to be more politically active and encouraged to use their time on duty to tell the American people who we should be voting for. I mean, how else are we going to know when I want our politicians, I want our leaders to be more connected to law enforcement. I mean, if it were up to me, I wouldn't even be against the idea of maybe saying that an easier way to achieve what I'm suggesting here would be to say, let's only let the police vote. If you're not a cop, you don't get to vote. I know this sounds like a crazy idea, but not only has this been done before, I mean, if you remember at one point in the United States, it was only white land-owning males who were allowed to vote. So it's very reasonable to suggest that only police should be allowed to vote in America. And obviously that would be great for law and order and also great for the political process, because politicians would be competing to serve police interests, to make sure that they get the best funding, the best, the complete legal authority that they need to do their work without question, the ability to handle investigations internally without letting the media in on that, the ability to, clear themselves of wrongdoing when accused by the public. I think having a much more police-centric kind of political system would be better for America and the world. Although I don't think, unfortunately, most Americans aren't able to see the glory of our heroes and our public servants in law enforcement in America. And actually, that makes them all the more heroic to in that way stand against that misunderstanding about their importance and significance, and how, I mean, the fact that police have qualified immunity it's really, I mean, they deserve it, frankly. When we say that the police are heroes, it's not just a vague general statement with no implications. When we say that police are heroes, we mean that they're better than pretty much everybody else. And that's true. And it's really high time that society recognize that to the full extent. Because right now, we only kind of respect that in terms of policy, like 75%. Like I said, things like qualified immunity and other special authorities that the police have to sort of be exempt from the rules that apply to the rest of us. And if we could just make that more consistent and strengthen that system. So, again, we have this as, right here, the thin blue line in the logo. And it's very important, I think, for everybody who understands that police are heroes, that we really broadcast this message and bring the rest of the public onto our side to support the police. And while, asking for the system to change, to only letting police officers vote. I know it's not that that's extreme, but it is unlikely. That is a significant, increase in government power and a change in the system. I don't think it's really realistic to expect that anytime soon. But until then, at least we can support officers like who is this? I want to make sure I got the name right of the officer. Does it actually have the name here? Let's see. I guess it doesn't have. It doesn't have the name of the actual officer in the story. I guess we could we could find this. But I'll leave it to you to find it yourself, because he is suspended and under investigation. And I think when a police officer takes the bold step of doing something like this, of taking the initiative to tell us who to vote for, we really need to reach out and support them. So maybe find a GoFundMe or something like that, or call the NYPD and tell them that that this officer has your support. And if anything, we want to hear more from the police about what they think in terms of who we should vote for. All right, our next story. 30 officers injured in protests after shooting of knife-wielding man by Philadelphia police. This is from ABC News. Officers say the man was waving a knife and moving toward them when he was shot. At least 30 police officers have been injured and 33 people have been arrested as protests continued overnight in Philadelphia over the shooting death of a black man by police in West Philadelphia on Monday afternoon. The Philly Police Department confirmed that a 56-year-old female PPD sergeant was struck by a black pickup truck in the area of 52nd and Walnut Streets at approximately 12:44 a.m. on Tuesday morning. She was subsequently transported to a local area hospital where she is currently in stable condition with a broken leg and other injuries. And so, again, if we don't make it clear that we support the police, if we don't get those flags with the thin blue lines, then, look, there are real world consequences here. Not only are officers being physically injured, but in a lot of these protests, they're being yelled at. They're being directly confronted verbally. They're being told things. They're being subject to this kind of verbal abuse that really is inappropriate. And I want to make sure again that we can put this in perspective, and again, make sure that we protect this police power to use deadly force whenever they feel threatened. And I really have to say these protests, it really is, I think, a measure of what's left of the rebellion in America. And I have no doubt that our heroic police officers and law enforcement overall, and again, I'm so grateful that we have these massive black budgets in federal law enforcement, where when there are protests like this, that there are infiltrators that we're able to get in there and diffuse a lot of these situations before any police officers get hurt. And I want to say that while we're at this sort of interesting point in American history in 2020, when Americans are debating police power like never before, I just hope that we come out of this with a greater appreciation for law enforcement and make sure that we strengthen their authority rather than, like we're hearing all these calls to defund the police. And it's absurd on its face. But I think by hearing that defund the police message, that more Americans will realize that they have to come out and actively support our American heroes in law enforcement. All right. From Fox 5 New York, with coronavirus cases soaring, Newark reinstates curfew. The city of Newark has reinstated a curfew for non-essential businesses in an effort to prevent further spread of a second wave of the coronavirus. Beginning October 27, all stores except supermarkets, pharmacies, and gas stations must close at 8 p.m., announced Mayor Ras Baraka Monday. A day earlier, the largest city in the state had recorded 101 new cases, bringing the total to 10,087, more than any other municipality in Essex County combined. And again, one of the things revealed by this corona crisis is all of the places where government is too weak. We see that when government needs to enact curfews, the police don't really have enough authority to really enforce them. When the government needs to declare lockdowns, that we don't have enough surveillance. I mean, in Texas, well, this is one of the stories that we covered, but this I think was happening all around the nation, really all around the world. Well, maybe not in some countries where governments have their act together a little better than in the United States. I know that's hard to admit, but there are some countries. There are a few that are more effective in their use of the police force. And in the United States, what happened is that a lot of the salons that were shut down ended up going underground, literally running out of basements in people's homes. And if we had a stronger surveillance state, if we had a stronger police state, that never would have happened. I mean, think of how much safer we would be in that situation, so that when government identifies a threat like the coronavirus, and the brilliant human servants at public servants at the World Health Organization, what they're able to do when they identify a threat. Imagine how much better we would be able to respond to a threat like this if the surveillance state really, if the U.S. government not only knows where we are at all times, and I think again one of the greatest things about the smartphone technology is that it basically puts a surveillance device in your pocket. It connects. I mean, this is like your direct lifeline to government in so many ways. And one of the things I love about having a smartphone is that I get government text messages. I get alerts from about extreme weather warnings, and when there were kids kidnapped, the Amber alerts in my area. But I'm most grateful for, not most, I'm more grateful that I'm also able to be accessible to politicians directly. I mean, it's like, politician in your pocket. I get a lot of texts, and again, it hasn't helped sway me yet, but I'm again, it's one of these beautiful things about the world we live in today, that if you have a cell phone, your number is basically out there. And I don't want to say it's public, and that might be a bad thing if everybody had access to everybody's number. Plenty of exes might be having fun with that, but at least the major corporate interests in America, the banks and the political parties have access to these huge databases of phone numbers, and they're able to connect with people directly. But that which I am most appreciative about with having a cell phone today is that it's like it really is. It comes with an umbilical cord to government, and that is just, it makes me feel nourished to know that at any time, without even telling me. And I would assume the NSA is kind of doing this continuously for every American, but recording at least the background audio. It's like Alexa in your house, or the Dot, where you have one of these smart devices that connects you to the internet. Because when you say hey Siri, or hey Alexa, or whatever your digital assistant is, it's got that passive listening going on constantly. And the government has that same capability. And it gives me this incredible feeling of security. But another amazing thing with this is the geolocation, that they can track where you are and know where you are at any time. And there's some people who don't like this, who are looking for ways out. And shame on people like John McAfee for trying to create these mechanisms of privacy and escaping accountability. We should be holding everybody accountable, and government is a very powerful, effective mechanism for that. So the idea that if you have a smartphone, if you have a cell phone, basically today, the government can listen in on your conversations or whatever. They can audio eavesdrop through your phone whenever they want, and they can know where you are at all times. I mean, this is an incredible thing that really has gotten given authorities a whole other power that they never had before. And this technology has just this incredible potential to unify humanity around governments and get us marching in lockstep forward through history. And when I see a story like this with curfews and I mentioned the hair salon stories and a lot of gym owners as well opening in civil disobedience. Which is really when you're a criminal, a pathetic excuse for your behavior. What's a bank robber going to do next? If we really let this civil disobedience thing get out of hand, next thing you know, you'll have bank robbers saying, "Well, this is my civil disobedience." No. So I want to see government apply this technology fully. And again, I think it's critical that we support our leaders and politicians who are doing the important legal work when some of these government agencies are under attack to defend their authority and get them more money and strengthen their budgets, so that in a place like Newark, we're able to see a curfew like this fully enforced. And I think if Trump could have, with his national state of emergency, he would have imposed a national curfew, but sadly, national law enforcement just isn't as strong as it needs to be. Our next article is from The Hill, thehill.com. Cruz, Hunter Biden attacks don't move a single voter. This is, of course, Senator Ted Cruz, Republican from Texas, says he doesn't think that President Trump's attacks on Hunter Biden will move even one voter. And I think this is great news again, as we covered the story yesterday. Despite some people saying that the video and the fact that a lawyer went to the computer repair shop and asked for the laptop back, that proves that this is all true. I'm so grateful that the American people aren't factoring in these petty personal attacks against American royalty. And I think Senator Cruz is right here. I hate to ever say anything at all that might cast doubt on our dear leader Trump's authority here. But when Trump might be making a tactical mistake, but you know what, I have to then question myself. If you find it, and this is, I think, really, really important for us to remember as statists, is that if you ever find yourself questioning authority, when you point the finger at someone, you're pointing three fingers back at yourself. And you need to look at those other three fingers and go, what's wrong with me? Why am I questioning this authority? And in this case, I would say, in me personally, questioning Trump's strategy, I just have to assume that Trump has some other motive that he's got for doing this, or some other legitimate reason. So that being said, again, CJ has it in here, and I would, you know what? This is really a quote for the ages. CJ, what you just said is absolutely genius. And I wish I had thought of this. Maybe we should, maybe since I'm the authority with this show, you can give me credit for it, since I'm going to be the first to say it out loud, and then we can put it on memes with my face. It's a mistake to think that our leaders would make a mistake. Truer words never spoken. Thank you so much for that, CJ. All right, let's see if we have time. Let's run through a couple headlines before we get to our last check-in with the audience to wrap things up. The dailymail.co.uk, the Daily Mail online, has this headline: Trump's $1.1 billion debt mountain. How the president owes huge sums linked to his towers and golf courses, with $900 million due to be repaid within the next 4 years as COVID hammers, the real estate market. He has a $1.1 billion mountain of debt, according to the Financial Times, $900 million of it due in the next 4 years. Trump's TV checks, though not his airtime, have diminished since he moved to the White House in 2016. With his primary source of income dented, much of the president's wealth is tied up in commercial property. The president has an estimated net worth of $2.5 billion, but stormy financial seas lie ahead post-pandemic. And I just think this is a testimony to the integrity of our president, that he has leveraged the system so well. And, why shouldn't people be able to profit from public office? When we elect someone to a political office in America and give them a unique authority and power that we don't have as individuals, we are really saying that they're better people. And I think, there's a lot of debate on how this happens, but overall, yes, people should be able to profit from public office. And I think Trump is a great example of this. And I don't know about this $2.5 billion net worth number, because this has gone back and forth. When he was running, his net worth was $10 billion. And obviously, when you're worth that much, your wealth is going to fluctuate with the value of your brand. That 10 billion, I think that the Daily Mail here is actually really still, and this is, again, some of these, fake journalists who think their job is to challenge authority. Some of them were saying that, Trump's not really worth $10 billion. He's really only worth a few $100 million. And then when his tax returns came out and it was revealed that he was actually significantly leveraged with his real estate properties and had a lot of debt that he was carrying. Again, I agree with the president, and what he said here is that he's actually under leveraged. Given his overall financial position and the value of his brand, then he really should have more debt, in the sense that he should be borrowing more money so that he can apply his genius to manage more properties. And this number here, they're putting out $2.5 billion. I mean, Trump's brand, just from being president of the United States, is worth well over $10 billion. I mean, how much money can you make from that as a speaker and as a consultant? When you get out of the presidency, and the brand. I mean, think of they'll be able to reopen Trump University. They'll be able to start selling steaks again. His net worth is hugely underestimated, and I hesitate to put an exact number on it. I'll wait till I hear his next estimate. But I got to say, if it was $10 billion before he was elected to the presidency, it's got to be at least $20 billion now, and really probably more than that, with all of the ways that his empire has grown while he's been president, his business empire, even though he hasn't had the time to lead it himself, and it would grow a lot more if he did. But given that he's sort of separated, management so that he can focus on being president and serving the American people, his actual, business values haven't increased as much as they should have over the last 4 years. But win or lose, his net worth is going to keep going up and up and up as people see the value in his brand. When they see how much greater America is, when people see how much more prosperous and safer we are because of President Trump's 4 or 8 years in office, they're just going to want more and more of them, and they're going to recognize that because of his brand, his name ID, his net worth is way more than any of these punk critics would possibly suggest. Let's see a couple comments in the Producers Club. CJ says he is the leader of the free world. That leader of the free world, that's got to make your brand value go up, obviously. So let's see. Senator, let's just breeze through a couple, see if we can skim over a couple. We've got a little international block. And we're going to come back to the surveillance story tomorrow, CJ. But let's go ahead to China. Well, again, this China story too. I think we got to come back to this censorship in China. There's some stuff going on in Nigeria. Some just out of control protesting. A little update about Iran and Qatar Airways. I guess we can skip ahead to this. Bloomberg real quick here. Qatar Airways faces protest over examination of Australian women. Women examined after baby was found abandoned at Doha Airport. Airport workers may refuse to service clean Qatar airplanes. Qatar Airways faces an effective grounding of its planes in Sydney as workers consider striking over the treatment earlier this month of some female Australian passengers in Doha. It's a shame that we see this kind of economic disruption. So I hope they can get their staff under control. And then there's one last headline I'm going to mention today, but I'm not going to get into this because this really deserves a proper examination. So I promise we'll come back to this one tomorrow. From AlJazeera.com, WHO, that's not the band, the WHO, that's the World Health Organization, urges world don't give up as COVID-19 pandemic resurges. WHO chief acknowledges fatigue, but says distancing masks vital to avoid return to strict lockdowns. And I know when authority reaches into your lives with a new policy, sometimes that takes some getting used to. But as we keep in mind that this is all for our own good, I think it's going to become I think we should have no problem overcoming this fatigue phenomenon. All right, let's go to Comment Jim for our last check-in with the audience before we do our promos and wrap things up today.
What's going on? Excuse me. Okay, a couple guesses as to who you should vote for, I think. Leland Birch says, I'd vote Trump over Biden. Even though they could be playing us, Biden is directly tied to the cabal, the neocons, globalists, etc. It's tough this year because Biden's radical appointees are so far left and anti-freedom.
Who is that from?
Leland Birch.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good insight there. Although, see, if when you say put it back up. I want to get the wording right. I mean, when Leland, when you say far left and anti-freedom for Biden's radical appointees, I think you should have put quotes around that. But in terms of being, far left and anti-freedom, I think what you mean is, pro bigger government and pro authority. And that's a point for Biden. So I don't know. I'm not convinced. What's next?
Well, 1054 says, considering your sketchy past, let us choose your leader, Adam. We know better.
We might do that. Maybe with Monday's show, we'll let you guys vote on who I should vote for. That's fair.
That would put 1054 in the lead, I think, huh?
Yeah. Isn't 1054 already a member of the Producers Club?
I don't know. There's so many people in there. I lost track of who is and who isn't in their alternate egos online. If they are not, email me, Jim@freedomline.com.
All right, Jim, any other critical comments before we sign off today?
Empty Matter says, good show. Until next time. And he has
all right.
On symbol.
Well, I think then we're going to award our membership in the Producers Club today to Mr. Heckman. I think, pointing out the importance of militarism, which candidate is going to be able to do the most with the military. I still wish we could have had more on that from Ben. As a military veteran and combat veteran myself, I know that the more combat that we have now, the better to get humanity on the same page, to get us towards a global government. I know that everybody who died in Iraq when I was there died for the good cause of the American government and for peace, essentially. So I just want to thank Ben for pointing that out and the importance of militarism in moving humanity forward. So let's go ahead and award that to Ben. Congratulations, Ben. You are the winner. By the way, you can buy your way into the Producers Club. And yeah, I know there's some branding confusion here, but we'll figure out something else that's really more in line with a responsible message. But for now, you can see what's there at patreon.com/Adam versus the man, which you can also find through, get the comment off, Adam, there, AdamLovesTheMan.com. You can go to AdamLovesTheMan.com and check that out directly without having to remember that longer link. Last promo here, of course, with our other affiliates, CigarFederation.com. Please check it out. Promo code ADAM10. That's all caps. ADAM10 gets you 10% off your order. All right. And then, of course, we would be remiss to not mention MakeThemDebate.com. Check out the beginning of the show if you missed it for my explanation about how cool that website is and the potential to advance statism through intellectual challenges in debate there. Jim, any last critical comments before we sign off today?
Just Unicorny1 watching on Periscope says Trump or Biden ? Both extraordinary individuals, so it's a win-win.
Absolutely. That's a great note to end on. And with that, we will sign off to say, war and slavery, all choose obedience, and don't forget to report your suspicious neighbors to the authorities.